Hey, this is Andrew Brown. This fall along, I want to explore looking at chaining AWS CLI commands together so that we can work with them more efficiently. So what I'll do is create a new folder. And again, I'm in this repo, the AWS examples. And again, this folder is going to be called chaining. And we'll look at two chaining examples. The first will be with just using an environment variable, and then the other one will be using xargs. So we'll just say chaining with envars. So let's say that we need to get a VPC in order to create a subnet. That was the example we used in the slides. So let's go ahead and just do that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to type in VPC ID, and I'm going to write export because I plan on exporting this variable. And I'm going to write in AWS EC2 describe VPCs, and then we're going to apply a filter here. And so we might want to say, we might want to get back a very specific VPC. So let's go take a look here at what we have for VPCs. And I'm going to go over to, I'll say North Virginia. Okay. And we'll go over to VPCs. The reason I'm saying SAA Central is because right now I don't have a default VPC. And so I want to make things a little bit easier for you as well. If we go into here, this should be my default here. Yes, it is. And so the idea is I want to return back this one here. Okay. So the idea is that if we go and look up describe VPCs, it was CLI version 2, then we should be able to look at some filters that we can utilize to select it. So we could select it based on the CIDR range. So here, if we look at it, it is 172.31.0016. That's normally what the default is. At least that's what I believe it to be. But maybe we could also just select it based on whether it's the default one. I think that's what I would like to do. So what we'll do here is go back over to our filters. I'm going to type in filters here, and we provide a name. So I'm going to assume that this is going to be default. What's interesting here is that I don't see a value it's supposed to provide. So normally you would see something like state and then you provided a value, but here it's not suggesting we provide a value unless we're supposed to provide it yes or no, but it's not saying. Right? So the filters are case sensitive. You specify a value for a filter, the values are joined as the case here. So let's go find out if this actually works. So I'm going to just go ahead and copy these two lines here and paste them in. Another thing that we need to indicate is the region. So I'm going to go ahead here and just explicitly set the region because, again, this is just an issue with my CA Central 1 that I don't have a default VPC, at least not right now. So we'll go ahead and hit enter, and it's returned no data. So clearly there is something that I'm missing here. I'm going to just take the filter out here for a moment, and we'll test with that. Okay. We do get back stuff. Eventually, I just want to select the VPC ID. So what I'll do is I'll write a query to filter out that information. So I'm going to say VPCs. And the thing is, you can only have one default region. So it's safe to say select 0, the first one, and we'll say VPC ID. Okay. And we'll go ahead and try this. And so there it is, it's selecting it, but I want it to select, well, it's selecting the first it's finding, but not necessarily the default one. Because if we go back over to here, notice this one says 00E6B. This one's saying 00E6B, but we want the default one. So we need to get this filter to work. It didn't show us what we needed to provide as a value, but let's just go ahead and type in values yes, and see if that resolves it. I'm not sure if those are case sensitive. It might be. The values are case sensitive. Okay. So what I'm thinking is that this over here says yes in that casing. And so I'm going to match it and see if that makes a difference or does what we need it to do. And we'll go ahead and see if that works. I'm just going to put that there. And this is totally a guess. I'm not sure if that will work. And we get back a null. So, I'm not 100% sure with that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just bring this onto a single line. I'm just going to copy this whole thing, and I'm just going to put an X on the end. I'm doing that on purpose because I wanted to open up the CLI. I'm going to go to the AWS CLI tab, make sure I'm there, and we'll bring this up. So now what I'll do is I'll just back out a bit. I'm going to go here and type in name equals is default. Now, what I was hoping is that it would start to show up here, but it's not. So I thought maybe it would auto-complete it here. So that doesn't work. Let's try a few other values. So maybe we'll try yes in lowercase. Try this again here. I'm not sure why I copied some weird thing in the front of it. That didn't work. What if we try true? Okay, so it's true. Again, notice that it doesn't tell me what it is, but I had to infer that's what it was. It's probably using a Boolean. I'm not sure if it tells us. Yeah, it doesn't tell us what these are. So again, we had to guess to figure that one out. But that's bringing back the value we want. Another thing we should probably do is specify that the output is text. We'll go ahead here, because I don't want those double quotations around it. There we go. So notice that this had double quotations and now it doesn't. So that's something that might matter when we're working with this. So what we'll do is make this a little bit easier to read. So I'm going to go here and put a forward slash or backslash, and then a backslash, and then a backslash, and then another backslash. Okay. And then the idea here is that this should assign it to the VPC ID. So I'll type in clear here, and what I'll do is I'm going to copy this and paste this in here. And so the idea is that now I should be able to print it out and see its contents. So we'll go down here, and we'll say echo and $VPC ID. Okay. I'll paste that in, and so we can get that value. So now what we can do is go ahead and create our subnet. So we'll say AWS EC2 create subnet VPC. The reason I know what I'm typing in is because, again, it's just in my slides, so I'm just kind of referencing that. If we didn't know, and you've seen me do this enough that I would go here and I would look it up and I would say, okay, where is this create subnet? And then we would go down and we'd look at for an example code, and we have an example code there. It's basically the exact same thing we're using. So I'm going to go ahead and just grab it. But we'll go ahead and paste this in. And so here, now what we want to do is just apply the VPC ID. We have the CIDR block. So the CIDR block does matter, and it has to basically have the same IP address as the one up here. So this is where a case where we might actually want to pull another value, which is grabbing the CIDR range. So what I'm going to do is go back up to here and grab this statement. And I actually just want to go down and say paste. And this one will be for grabbing that CIDR range. So we'll take out this part. So we'll still get back the JSON object. I'm just going to switch this back to JSON so I can see what I'm doing. We'll go ahead and hit enter. And what I'm looking for is that CIDR block. So there it is. And it's also up here as well, so we can grab either one. All I want is the front of it off, so I just want this part of it. So what we'll do is we'll say CIDR block, and I'm going to change this back to text. Type in clear. And we're going to grab this, and we'll hit enter. Okay, and so we need some way of dividing this string, right? So we don't want the last characters on it, so there's probably some kind of CLI command we can use. I'll use ChatGPT to help us figure this out really quickly. So we'll say using the CLI or the Linux command programs. Take this string and remove the /16. Or we'll say the string and replace the /16 with a /24. And there's something probably out there like SED might work for us. The trick with it is that SED always does something different. Okay, use a Linux command to do this, to do the replacement. I'm not sure, maybe it's this over here. Sometimes it has that. And so this one's using SED. So just understand that SED is going to vary in syntax based on the distribution or Linux that you're using. So we could use this and it could totally fail. We'll go ahead and test it. And it worked. we're really lucky that that worked. I'm just going to tell you right now, you could write this and then you could deploy it to another server and it doesn't work. So sometimes the syntax here in these programs vary based on Linux distribution. So be very careful about that. What I want to do is make sure that this works by like with chaining it. So we'll go ahead and put this on the end. And I'm just going to go and try this. Okay. We'll paste this in and then we'll type in clear. I'm going to go ahead and copy this and oops. And we'll go ahead and copy this again and press enter. And so now we're getting the result that we want. We might already have a CIDR block for that, so that might not work in our favor, but we'll work with this here in a moment. So we'll just say CIDR block, okay? And I'm not sure why that is highlighting like that. It's probably fine. I'm gonna go ahead and copy this and we'll give it a try. So again, copy, paste, enter. And it does not like the export here because we're missing the equals. Okay, I knew there's something wrong there. We'll try this one more time. Okay, and then we will just do an echo on the CIDR block as well. Great, but the issue is that we have 0, 0, right? So again, if you haven't done subnets and VPCs yet, the way it works is that you are going to have subnets within this VPC. So if we go over to subnets, I'm just going to grab this here. We go over to subnets, wherever that is. And we are going to look at the CIDR IPv addresses. You're seeing 20, 20, 20, 20, 20. So the thing is that the next one, we can't use 0 because it's already being in use. The other thing is that this one was divided with 24. I'm going to stick with 20 as that's the way it's been subdivided. I guess the question is there any more room for any more? I'm not 100% sure. There is a way of doing CIDR math. I'm not the best at it, but we'll go ahead and take a look here. And the idea here is that we would have an IP address. This is just a free website that everybody knows when working with CIDR ranges. So we'll just mimic this. And so we'll say 172.31.00. That doesn't really matter, but I'm just doing this so that our example matches for everybody. 172, what was it? 30, 72, 31, 00. And so if we type in 20, notice that this is how many we have. And so if we do 16, we have 65,000. So what I want to know is, do we have any more room for any more CIDR blocks? Okay, so we have 65,536 addresses. And if we go to 20, we have a number of 4,096. And this one, I believe, has 6 subnets already. So we go here, we'll count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's 6 of them. So what I'll do is I'll go and take a look and say, okay, there are times 6. So what is that value? Times 6, please. And so we have this much used, okay? So clearly we have more room for more CIDR blocks, so we can definitely put another one here. The next question is, how is it incrementing? And based on what, how you divide it is going to be based on what this increments at. So if this was /20, you know, it's adding this amount of range. If it was 24, it's going to be fewer. And the idea is that the numbers for these CIDR ranges are just going to be different. So what is the next one? Well, the next one, I usually just look at it and I can just see what it's incrementing by. So it's going 0, 16, 32, 48, 64, 80. So it's adding 16 every time. So the next one's going to be 80 plus 16, which will be 96. So I know that we can change this into 96. So this one should be 0, what was it? 96, 0. And so let's see if we can modify this to do that. So I'm just carefully looking at the value here. We have 1624, and we want this to be a 0 here, okay? And then a period, and then a 0. And then on this side of it, we're going to do 96, 0. And hopefully that will just work. This is using regular expressions, so you'd have to understand how regular expressions work, and regular expressions are different based on the OS. That's why I was talking about the variation for SED. So what we'll do is go ahead and try this and see if it actually prints out what we want it to print out. Okay, and then we'll echo this out. And now we have 172.31.96.0.20. So that should be a valid CIDR block that we can use. And we'll go ahead and paste it on in here like this. Okay, and we'll type in clear. There's tag specifications. Yeah, that's good. We probably could have, say, IPv4 only, because that's what it might already be. I'm not sure. If we go back here, as it can have IPv4 and IPv6. This one only has IPv4, so we're going to match it based on that. And let's go ahead and see if we can actually create this now. And so it has a problem. We've done something wrong. Not sure what. We'll go ahead and hit enter and see what it's complaining about. And it says it's an issue with the tag parameter, which is interesting because they're the ones who supplied it to us. We didn't change that. So that's interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what it doesn't like there. Maybe this needs to be wrapped in single quotations. Sometimes this stuff messes up if it's not wrapped. So I can go ahead and try that. Or we'll do doubles. Sorry, we'll do doubles. I always forget if it's doubles or singles. I think it's singles, to be honest. Let's go ahead and try this and see if that fixes our issue. It's saying this VPC does not exist. The issue here is that we don't have the region specified. So this might not be an issue for you, but it's an issue for me because my default is not US East 1. I'm in CA Central. We'll go ahead and hit enter. And there we go. So it should have created that subnet. I'm going to refresh here, and we should see it now. So there it is, right here at the top, and it provides that name. I'm going to go ahead and just delete out that subnet. And so we've successfully chained using environment variables. And I do this a lot when writing bash scripts. Now we can also use chaining with xargs. And I don't use xargs that often because I just find it hard. And a lot of times I don't find much benefit in making a single line. But sometimes you might need to provide a single line, especially if you're going to provide it to a customer and you want it to be one and done. But what we can do is we can use it to describe VPCs and then describe the subnets within a VPC. So what we'll go ahead and start typing some commands. So we'll say AWS EC2 describe VPCs, and we'll query it. And I only want to get the first VPC. So this won't necessarily be the default one, but it'll be the one that I want. I'm going to just change this to be region US East 1. And then I want to output the text. So let's see if this works. And did I write from scratch? Yes. Once you start working with it, you start remembering the commands you're working with often. So here is that one. And what I want to do is I want to describe VPC. So that'll be AWS EC2 describe subnets. I said VPCs, I'm going to say subnets. And if we go ahead here and copy, I mean, that should be a thing. So there's probably a filter to filter based on VPCs. Let's go take a look there. Go all the way to the top. And we'll go to EC2 and we'll say describe subnets. And we'll go down below here. And I'm going to go to filters to see if there is one. If there wasn't, we could probably use a query to abstract it. And so there should be something for VPC ID here. So I'm carefully looking, and there it is on the end. So there it is. And we'll go ahead and put that in there. So filters, I'm going to put this in double quotations just so that there's no issues. And then we'll say values. And the idea is that we want to supply it here, right? So let's go ahead and just grab it and just make sure that this works. And then we will then figure out how to write the xarg. So say copy, paste. And I'm going to grab this here. I'm going to paste it in right there. Not exactly where I want it to be. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and copy this and paste and hit enter. And so it's not returning any subnets. That's not what I wanted. It's supposed to return subnets. So I'm just kind of wondering why that isn't working. Good question. Let's go take a look at the describe subnets and see if there's any examples, because maybe I wrote it incorrectly. It doesn't look like I have. It looks like I've written it correctly. Maybe the issue, oh, you know what, it's the region again, sorry. They can't find it in a region that doesn't exist. That makes sense. So we'll go ahead and copy that. We'll paste it in. We'll hit enter. And so now we're getting back to subnets. I only want the subnet information, so I'm going to just query that out. Looking at that structure, we can select all subnets. I'm going to say subnets, and I want all of them. And inside of that, I only want to grab two things. I want to grab the CIDR block and the subnet ID. So what I'll do is I'll do period, and then what you can do is do square braces like this. CIDR block, subnet ID, and so that should select them within the interior. How do I know that? I don't know. I've just written enough of this to kind of remember it. And let's go ahead and execute that. Type this clear again. I thought that was right. Oh, maybe I'm just missing this here. Copy, paste, enter. There we go. I'm just going to change this to have an output of table. So this one only has a single subnet, so we could change this out to be the other one. So maybe instead of this, we could get the one that is the default VPC. So we can go here and just grab this here and paste this in above. And so now, well, sorry, I don't want it in there. I'm not creating a subnet. I want it in here, sorry. And it's just copying what I don't want to copy. I'm really not that bad at copying and pasting. It's just, again, because I'm working within a cloud developer environment and it's just finicky. So we'll go down here and paste this here. And the idea is that I want to filter out specifically for the other one because I'll get more subnets that way and then we'll get better data. So go ahead and grab this one. So we'll grab this VPC and we will paste it on in like that. We'll make sure that this works. Okay. Again, I'm going to put a table on that because that output's a bit messy. There we go. That looks really good. So now the next thing is to bring these together. So here are our two commands. And then down below, I want to stitch them together. So that's where we're going to use xargs. So the idea here is that we are going to have a pipe. And we'll bring this onto a new line so it's a little bit easier to work with. I'm going to type in xargs, and we're going to provide the input, and the input's going to be curlies. And so wherever these curlies appear is where it's going to substitute. And where I want it to substitute is over here in values. And so I'm hoping that this is going to work. Let's go ahead and copy this. I'm going to type in clear, and fingers crossed that this works. There we go. So that is a way you could chain it together. I know it looks like a huge mess, but it's as simple as doing xargs I with that curlies and do this. I'm sure there are more options, but again, I don't work with xargs enough to know them, but I know this one, and this is pretty useful just in this limited way. So, yep, that's all there is to it, and I'll see you in the next one, okay? Ciao.